Hi, I'm Margaret at Mueller Guide, and today I want to share with you some important tips for staying healthy while working at home. So many of my clients have been contacting me with different issues, whether it's their calf or their low back or their thighs. And so what's happening is they're getting tight. They're spending a lot more time sitting than they normally do. If they're working from home rather than walking down the hallway, and maybe, visiting a few people and spending more time standing, on their way to the bathroom or on their way to lunch, they're just having to walk a couple of feet. And so as a result, all that sitting is causing certain key muscles to tighten up. So to understand how certain muscles get tight just from sitting and having a confined walking environment, I'm using a piece of TheraBand to act as my muscles. So first muscle, I'm going to start from the bottom up, is the calf muscle. So the calf muscle ends in the Achilles tendon, so it narrows down, and it, as you all well know, when you get little strains in your calf or you're doing a calf stretch, that calf muscle has two heads and it attaches just above the knee. So when we're sitting, then because the knee is bent and the foot is flexed like that, we get a shortening of the calf muscle. Now, the next muscle is the quadricep. The quadriceps, as the name implies, there are four muscles. They attach in different parts of the pelvis and the front of the femur, and together they join and narrow down to become the patellar tendon and attach just below the knee. So as you can tell, that this is also a shortened position for them. So the muscle when we're sitting is not having that opportunity to lengthen all the way. Now, the third muscle has two heads. One of the heads attaches actually to the front of our spine. So I could dig my fingers all the way down and feel the front of these bones. That is where the psoas muscle attaches. And then, so that will be a little bit longer one. And then the shorter head attaches from the front of the pelvis. That's the iliacus. And so together, they join and become the iliopsoas muscle. So again, when we're sitting and our knee is, up to the height of our hips, then that is going to also shorten that muscle. You see, I just clumped up the TheraBand. So how do we take care of these? So daily stretching. All you need is a couple of chairs, a rolled up yoga mat, or if you have a half foam roller, or even a nice, 2-3 inch book, that would work great. So there's lots of ways of stretching them, by the way. I've chosen these three because they're easy to do, and the easier things are, I've noticed with my clients, the more likely they're going to do it. So let's cover from the order that we covered the muscles, the calf stretch first. You can use a chair for a little support if you like. All you need to do is place one foot on the support of the yoga mat or the book. Just the ball of your toes are on there, your heel stays on the ground. So by virtue of straightening your knee, that's going to allow the calf muscle to stretch, but the fact that your foot is elevated like this. Now, when the opposite foot is behind, if you're really tight, you'll feel a stretch. But if you're doing this and you're like, don't really feel a stretch, then by all means, that opposite foot, the closer it is, or if it passes the foot that you're stretching, you'll get a deeper and deeper stretch. Now, really important when you're doing all your stretches that you do both sides, and that you also feel that it's just a really comfortable stretch. It's not painful, there's no discomfort. It should just feel like that's a nice stretch. You didn't get tight in one day. We're all in about week 6 of the pandemic, so we might take, at least a week or two to start to loosen up. Stretch number 2, the quadricep muscle. So having a pillow on a chair behind you is a really if this is your work chair, you might just have a pillow nearby. You go, yeah, that's my cue. I should do that quad stretch. So remember how I mentioned that the quadricep attached to the front of the pelvis, down to the knee. And so you'd see how now I'm getting that nice stretch of that muscle. And that's what this does. So if I wanted to open up a little bit more, I could tighten my abdominals, because that's going to pull on the insertion. It's going to make this length feel longer. The other thing I can do is I can start with my foot a little further from the chair, so that when I place it back, I get even more opening. If I combine that with my abdominal tightening, bonus. And then the third thing I could do is bend the opposite knee just a little bit. So all ways to gradually increase the stretch through the thigh. Now the third muscle group, which I mentioned, is the hip flexor. I'm going to turn this chair around again. And I'm going to stretch the leg closest to you on the camera. And by placing the opposite leg up, the leg I'm stretching is the one that's left behind. So once again, remembering that that muscle is attached to the front of the spine, down to the femur. Then as I go forward, so I don't want to bring my body forward with me, because you see how that's going to just make that muscle short again. So I need to stay long and tall, chest up, gaze up, and let my pelvis go forward. And that's going to give the hip flexor a nice stretch. Some of you might be very tight, and having your foot all the way up here might just be too intense. So remember, you're looking for that nice stretch. It feels just right. So you can put your foot on a lower rung, maybe on a stool, and come forward. And that might be just enough to gradually progress to a deeper stretch. So that's it for today's episode. If you liked today's episode, please click the like. If you don't want to miss any future episodes, that's what that notification button is. And if you haven't yet subscribed, please do so. If you want to find out about my books and videos, then just go down into the description box below. Thank you for joining me, and have a lovely day.